Welcome in the Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, I'm going to see how long I can go into this episode still being positive. I'm going to try and be positive about the Philadelphia Phillies. We're also going to talk about, of course, the major problems currently facing this team and why a series with the Nationals needs to be, not might be, needs to be an opportunity for this team to get right because they are falling behind the eight ball in a bad way in a lot of different venues of baseball. So we'll discuss on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is indeed Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. You've heard me talk Phillies baseball for years now. Second year as your host of Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for checking us out. You know the deal. Make sure you're rating and reviewing wherever you consume your podcasts. If you haven't checked out the YouTube yet, please do so. And when you do, subscribe. Gives you notifications when new episodes are posted and we post new content. It's the best way to consume Locked On Phillies. And it helps us out here at Locked On as well. So it's a win-win for everybody. Super easy, doesn't cost you anything, takes 2 seconds. So subscribe on the YouTube, on the Locked On Phillies YouTube channel. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Go ahead and check out the Game Time app. Now, we know the Phillies are on a 4-game losing streak. They just got swept by the New York Mets. They split with the Braves down in Atlanta, and then they go to New York, and they just, for some reason, they don't play the Mets well ever. I don't know. This iteration of the Phillies doesn't play well against this iteration of the Mets, but we got bigger problems than that because this year's Phillies team has not played well against anybody. Now, they have an opportunity for a get-right series. They play the Washington Nationals, who you might think, oh, okay, really bad team. Well, the Nationals are 24-32. The Phillies are 25-31. You're only one game better than the Nationals at this point this year, and that's not a great sign when it comes to prospects for how the season is going. The Phillies take on the Nationals tonight, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can hear every pitch of the Phillies' hometown radio broadcast on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you can pull everything up there. But yes, Phillies-Nationals, the matchup of the bottom two teams in the NL East. And the Phillies have an opportunity to get right here against the Washington Nationals. I believe, let me just double check this real quick. I'm guessing the Phillies are going to be favored in, nope, they're not favored in every game of this series. Well, that's because they haven't named a pitcher for game 2. Wow, they're not favored in 2 of the 3 games against the Nationals. That kind of tells you where the Philadelphia Phillies are as an organization right now as a team. They're favored tonight in the first game of this series, but the Philadelphia Phillies always seem to play the Nationals well. And last year when they were struggling, this was a team that home, road, doesn't matter, wherever they played Washington, they handled them. They took care of business. They stacked wins in the NL East. Most of their wins last year came against the Marlins and the Nationals. This year, less games against the division, so divisional games are more important. And the record is already 5? 2-5? No, and then we got to count the Marlins series, which I think they went 1-2. Yeah, they're either 3-6 or 4-6, something like that in the division. It's not good. They have a losing record in division. They have a losing record overall. The Phillies just aren't that good right now. But an opportunity to get right in Washington. I know a lot of people are down on the Phillies right now. I'm down on the Phillies right now. If you watched yesterday's episode, you can go ahead and check it out. I was morose. I was depressed about what happened in that series in New York and Aaron Nola and Taijuan Walker and the starting pitching and the injuries and how Rob Thomas is managing this team and how the lineup's happening. Trey Turner not doing anything. All this stuff has me down about the Philadelphia Phillies. But we're going to try and stay positive during today's show. And here's the good thing, right? You have Zack Wheeler going on. He's on the mound tonight against Josiah Gray. So you've got an opportunity. I can't even say the word. An opportunity to go ahead and take care of business. But when you look at the numbers, it doesn't look as simple as that. So Wheeler's 4-4 this year, record-wise, a 3.6 ERA, a 1.14 WHIP in 65 innings pitched. He struck out 76 batters. Okay, great. Those numbers look all right. He needs to be better. He's only given up 4 home runs, so limiting the long ball. The ERA continues to drop with every start. He's coming off a really, really good start down in Atlanta. He's got some momentum, so that's a good sign. Now, when you look at what Josiah Gray has done, right-handed pitcher for the Nationals, been there for a little bit. He's 4-5, so the record doesn't look great, but he's got a 2.77 ERA through 61 and 2/3 innings, a 1.41 WHIP, which is a little higher than Wheeler. Opportunities to get on base more, but that 2.77 ERA is daunting when you look at a team in the Philadelphia Phillies who just scored 3 runs in an entire series on the road in New York against the Mets. He's given up 6 home runs, which isn't too bad. The big number difference between these two pitchers, Wheeler's walked 15 batters in his 65 innings. Josiah Gray has walked 31 batters in 61 innings. So he's walking about a batter every other inning. That's an opportunity. That's why his whip's higher than Wheeler. And he's only struck out 51. Less of a strikeout pitcher, more of a lack of command than what you see from Zack Wheeler. So this is a game where the Phillies hitters need to be patient. They need to have an approach. They need to not do what they did against Kodai Senga, who struggled with walks so far this year, and then came out and struck out, I think, 9 against the Phillies and didn't walk 1 and was just unhittable for them because the Phillies were getting themselves out on that ghost forkball. You can't help Josiah Gray out. You know, I work the pitch count. You got to go ahead and work him and get him into deep count so that he can either make mistakes or you can get guys on base. Not that the Phillies hit with runners in scoring position anyway. There we go. I'm already negative 6 minutes in. Stop your timers. That's how far I could get without being negative on the Phillies. But get guys on, create an opportunity. This is one of those, like, these are the games, these games against the Washington Nationals. Not only do you have to beat the Washington Nationals, 2 out of 3 at least, and the goal is a sweep. You got to start making headway somehow. You're on a 4-game losing streak, a 3-game winning streak. Doesn't even bring you back to even over your past, what will that be, 7 games? So, yeah, not great there. You got a big hole to dig yourself out of. But not only do you have to do that, but these are the type of games where you see an opponent where you're like, okay, if you start hitting, run it up. Get guys some confidence. Get guys like Trey Turner some hits and some RBIs, maybe even a home run. Get Kyle Schwarber some home runs. It's June now. This is his month. This is when he starts really starting to hammer the ball. Get that done. Get JT Realmuto back in the swing of things. Keep Bryce Harper hot. Keep Nick Castellanos hot. Some of the young guys who might have fallen off a little bit, not too much, but like Bryson Stott, get him back to how he was at the start of the year. Brandon Marsh, get him back to how he was at the start of the year. It'll also be an interesting series to see what the Phillies are going to do to make up for not having Alec Boehm available. And that first base is open. And is it going to be Drew Ellis the whole time? Maybe. It's possible. I don't love that. I've only seen 1 swing from him this year. He had 1 swing and a pitch hit performance and didn't go well, got out. So maybe it'll be Drew Ellis for the majority of the series, but a lot of stuff to figure out against the Washington Nationals. Just looking at some of the leaders for the teams, Schwarber, 13 home runs, leads both sides. You're looking at a situation where Lane Thomas is the leading home run hitter for the Washington Nationals. He's got 8 home runs on the year. Joey Meneses leads the Washington Nationals in batting average. He's batting 300. So is Nick Castellanos. But Castellanos' OBP and slugging numbers are both better. And Alec Boehm has 37 RBIs to Meneses' 29. Meneses leads the team in average and RBIs. Now, looking at a guy with 29 RBIs and batting 300 to this point through like 50 some odd games, he's a pretty good hitter. He's a guy that you're going to want to avoid, and Lane Thomas can hit the ball out of the ballpark. Those are guys to keep an eye on in tonight's game. Those are the guys that Zack Wheeler is going to have to avoid. Coming up, we're going to go through some of the big hitters for the Nationals and who else you're going to see in the rest of the series pitching-wise for Washington and discuss how that's going to affect the series with the Philadelphia Phillies. But, yeah, an opportunity tonight, a game where the Phillies are favored. The ESPN Analytics has them at 51.8% chance to win. Not a big favorite, but 48.2% for the Washington Nationals. The Phillies are actually minus 180 on the money line. So that's a substantial favorite when it comes to the betting odds, which means Vegas feels like the Phillies are due for a get-right game and Zack Wheeler is due for a continued stretch of good starts. I hope they're right, and most of the time Vegas is. But yes, a big series here with the Washington Nationals, and Game 1 is paramount to get this series off on the right foot. We're going to discuss a preview of the rest of the series, a look at the Washington Nationals roster and who's really stepping up for them so far in the 2023 season and all of that. Plenty more to come still as we continue Locked On Phillies. All right, and I want to tell you about one of our sponsors here, Game Time. Yes, of course. Now, buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. You got killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you're going to have. Phillies have some great giveaways coming up. Hopefully they get on a hot stretch and make it worth it to go down to the ballpark. But even if you don't want to go see baseball here in Philadelphia, so many great concerts. Summer is concert season. We have so many great venues here in Philadelphia. I'm a country music star. Sorry. I'm a country music fan who loves to go see country music stars. Zach Bryan was just playing the Wells Fargo Center. Saw a bunch of people down there. You can get tickets to all your favorite shows and stuff like that. I know the Taylor Swift Eras Tour is still going on. Everyone's dying to get those. Go ahead and use Game Time for that. I mean, it's so easy. You don't have to plan months in advance. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, all that good stuff. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same row and section. You're going to, for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Plus, you get images of your seat before you go. It's only a couple taps. It's not a hard process. Tickets go right to your phone. You don't have to search through your email. There's so many reasons. Game Time's the easiest way to buy tickets. Honestly, it's the only way to buy tickets. No one goes to the ticket window anymore. You got to go ahead and find your best deals online, and Game Time is the best place to do it. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's get into this series as a whole against the Washington Nationals. Again, game one's tonight at 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Washington Nationals. Wheeler's on the mound. You're not going to want to miss this one, but it's nice outside. Maybe you're not by a TV and you want to listen. Well, go to the SiriusXM app. You can hear every pitch of the Phillies' hometown radio broadcast. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. You'll be able to pull everything up there. So we talked about game one. Let's just look at the pitching matchups for games 2 and 3. Now, game 2, the Phillies have an undecided starting pitcher going against Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore's got a 3.57 ERA this year. The Phillies are possibly going to bullpen that game. So, yeah, advantage Nationals. Not a great pitching matchup for the Phillies in that one. And in the final game of the series, Ranger Suarez is on the mound against Trevor Williams, who has a 3.93 ERA. I mean, the Phillies are seeing 3 starting pitchers with sub-4 ERAs. You don't see that very often from the Washington Nationals over the past couple years. I'm used to Patrick Corbin with a 6 ERA go out and get shelled by the Phillies, and they win these games easily. So, yes, while the Phillies have an opportunity against the Nationals, the pitching matchups aren't totally favorable for the Phillies in this series. Even though I think Suarez is a better pitcher than Trevor Williams, he hasn't been so far this year. But we did get an encouraging start from Ranger Suarez recently. So don't mind the ERA. He's still only 4 starts into his season. So hopefully that plays out. But let's also look at some of the bats for the Washington Nationals and see who the guys are that we have to look out for. We already talked about Joey Meneses, who's leading the team in average. He's leading the team in RBIs. Lane Thomas has been having a good year. He's got those 8 home runs. Heimer Candelario has 7 home runs, respectable, batting .265, so not too worried about the average, but that's another guy you got to keep an eye on. But, I mean, some of these names. Dominic Smith, .269, 1 home run, not too worried about him. Luis Garcia, 4 home runs, .269. Like, this is not that good of a lineup. The pitchers have been pretty good. Alex Call has 3 home runs, a .207 average. You're not worried about him. I mean, Keibert Ruiz, CJ Abrams. These are all guys that are like, they've gone from having no-name guys to guys that have been in the major leagues for a little bit because they've gotten opportunities with a team in the Nationals that have been either rebuilding or not competing, depending on who you ask. Ownership would probably tell you, oh, we're trying to build a contender, but that fan base knows that ownership is not super interested in building one down there. And this is a reminder that we're lucky, even in these bad stretches as Phillies fans, that we have John Middleton and the Philadelphia market, where it lends to you spending money, and John Middleton's willing to do it. It takes 2 things. It takes you to be in a good market, and it takes the owner in that good market to actually care about winning baseball games, and the Phillies have both. So remember, it could always be worse. Some other guys, Victor Robles, Corey Dickerson, our old friend, of course, and remember him from his time in Philadelphia. These are all guys that are currently on the roster for the Nationals, but I don't look at that lineup and say it's anything that the Phillies can't handle. The bullpen game's going to be tricky, but when you have Suarez on the mound, when you have Wheeler on the mound like you do tonight, you'll be able to have the advantage pitcher over lineup. And the Phillies lineup is just so much better on paper. The issue is on grass and dirt, they haven't been that good this year. So I'm not saying that the Nationals can't beat the Philadelphia Phillies right now. There's one game of difference, and any team in baseball can beat the Phillies the way they're playing. What I'm saying is, this is the first series in a couple since before the Braves and before the, Even the Diamondbacks have been playing really darn well. But the Diamondbacks, Braves, Mets, you could all argue that they have solid rosters. The middle two, those NL East teams, yeah, very, very good rosters and very, very good lineups. Now you get a team where your lineup is significantly better than them when you just look at the names. So I don't know. The expectation, what we can't do, because the Philadelphia Phillies are struggling, is lower our expectations and say, okay, 2 of 3 from the Nationals would be exceptional, or tight games against this team would be encouraging. And I know I just want them to win, right? Wins are just the goal. It doesn't matter how you get them. They could be ugly at this point. This team just needs to stack wins somehow to get themselves back in the race for both the NL East and the wild card. The NL East might be out of the question already in early June. It's June 2nd, and they might already be screwed. But bottom line is, you can't lower the expectations and start thinking it's okay to just compete with the Washington Nationals. You've got so much more money committed to this team, so many better players, so much higher expectations. This needs to be a dominant series against the Nationals, and anything short of that is going to be another disappointment. So, yes, do not let the Phillies off the hook. And please do your best. This is a plea to the fan base. Try not to be apathetic. You can hate this team. You can hate the players. You can say, this guy stinks, that guy stinks. They're not getting it done. I'm tired of them. I don't want to watch anymore. Like, all of this stuff, I get it. I get the emotions, the negative emotions, being upset. That's deserved. You're not wrong for feeling that. But what you can't do not turn your back on them and let them off the hook and just be apathetic. Let them know your displeasure. Boo them when you go to the ballpark and they're not playing well. Tweet at them. I mean, don't be disrespectful. I'm not saying go on the warpath against the Philadelphia Phillies, but I'm just saying don't give up as a fan base, all right? Because that lets them off the hook for not performing to the level that this fan base deserves and that they're getting paid to and that this organization believes that they can play at. So continue to keep that fire about you. It can be negative. It can say, hey, we should move this guy, or this guy should not be back next year. This guy needs to be better. This guy can't be any worse. So hopefully he steps up, all this type of stuff. But whatever you do, you can't just turn a blind eye to the Philadelphia Phillies struggles and say, oh, well, we'll wait for the Eagles. The Eagles are 100 days away from playing their first game. No, we're not looking at that yet. We're still focused on the Phillies. We're still going to root on this team or complain about their shortcomings. But either way, make sure you keep that fire about the Philadelphia Phillies, because it's what this team needs and, frankly, what they deserve for playing as poorly as they are playing right now. And, oh, man, do I think they're going to pull out of it? I don't know. They still got time, right? They're only 3.5 back in the wild card, I think, is still the number. Let me go ahead and check that actually and get the correct number on the wild card standings for where the Philadelphia Phillies are. They're currently, yes, 3.5 back. The 3 wild card teams are Arizona, the Dodgers, and the Mets. So, I mean, it's going to be tough to track any of them down. I'd imagine that you're looking at a situation where the Diamondbacks are probably the most likely to fall out, but those teams' records 34-23, 34-23, 30-27. And that's because currently your division leaders, when you look at the standings in the National League, are the Atlanta Braves in the East, the Milwaukee Brewers in the Central, and the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers are tied. So there's one more open wild card spot there. They're tied to top the NL West, so one of those teams won't make it in. So you have a chance to track down the next highest team in the wild card standings. You're looking at is the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're 28-27, only one game above 500. National League has some opportunities in the lower wild card spots like they do every year, especially with the new wild card spot added, having 3 instead of just the 2 of previous years. So opportunities still, but the Phillies got to start making waves soon, or they're going to be in absolute trouble. And coming up, we're going to do a little poll question. We're going to do some off the poll. And I'm going to ask you a real deep searching question about how you feel about this Philadelphia Phillies team. So we got that coming up. If you're not familiar with Off the Poll, it's a Twitter poll question. I'll explain more in the next segment. And just one more time, I want to remind you, Phillies Nationals tonight, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast on the Sirius XM app. So go ahead and search Phillies on the SXM app, and you can go ahead and pull that up when they take on the Nationals tonight. An opportunity. We'll see. I tried to be as positive as I could, but they got to earn my positivity back, and I don't blame anyone for being negative about this team right now. Hopefully it's a get-right series, but we're going to do some soul-searching coming up as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Okay, Off the Poll. If you're not familiar with Off the Poll, it's a segment we do occasionally where I put a poll question out on our Twitter account at LO_Phillies on Twitter. I retweet it from my personal account. You can see it on the lower third here if you're watching on YouTube, but if you're not watching, if you're just listening, it's at Connor Thomas 975. You can follow us on all our socials. Follow me on my personal socials. Appreciate any of that continued support. But yeah, I post the question, let it run over the course of the weekend, and then on Monday, we'll discuss the results, and I'll give you my thoughts because I don't want to bias the poll and say, this is what I think, and then people make an argument, and people are like, oh, that was a good argument. No, I want your unbiased, straight opinion from you personally as to what the answer to this question should be. And this week, I mean, it's a simple question with a difficult answer. Yeah, you got to really look deep inside yourself and figure it out because we're in June. It's June 2nd. It's still early. The Phillies have plenty of time to turn this around. Their play hasn't indicated that they're going to, but the talent on the roster still breeds hope for some fans. So here's my question. Is the Philadelphia Phillies season over? Are they out of contention right now for the playoffs? I want to know. I imagine this would be my guess that it's largely going to be that no, the season isn't over. But I don't know. A lot of people are very down on this team right now. And even if it's a quarter of the fan base that already feels like this is done, that would be a striking look at how this fan base, how you out there listening are perceiving this team right now. So that's a simple question. Is the Philadelphia Phillies season, and in parentheses behind that, I'm going to put opportunity for playoff contention over? Just right now at this time. I want your first initial thought. Go ahead and vote on that. I'll put that up after this episode comes out, so you'll be able to go ahead and find that on our socials, and it'll be an interesting look Monday. Now I'll get the benefit of seeing this national series before I respond to it and talk about it in our final segment on Monday's episode. But at the same time, yeah, we're at kind of a crossroads for the Philadelphia Phillies, and I want to know where you think they're at right now. Super early, so don't roast me for asking this question. I just think a lot of the fan base is out on this team, and I don't know that I can totally blame you. I don't know. But, hey, unlike football, which is once a week, or basketball, which is 3 times a week, or hockey, the same. No, baseball, you get 5, 6, 7 games a week. They're right back at it again tonight. So another chance to win us over. That's the upside about baseball. Anytime you're on a losing streak, tomorrow you can go out and end it. So hopefully tonight they do. And we'll talk about it even more on the next episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for being along and checking us out. Again, make sure you're rating and reviewing where you get your podcast, liking and subscribing on the YouTube. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.